I want a wife in her teens. I'm going to start looking for one soon, so let's break up.
I almost dropped my wine glass I was holding at the fancy restaurant at his sudden words. What are you talking about? I never expected the man who brought me to this fancy restaurant after so long to be breaking up with me, especially in such a cheerful tone.
Well, you're in your 30s, right? If I'm going to get married, I think I want someone younger. Besides, long distance isn't really my thing.
Robert, his face flushed from the alcohol, said it casually. Are you serious? Is this some kind of prank? I couldn't get the words out of my throat. But you told me to wait for you, that we would definitely get married. I teared up as I recalled the words Robert had once said to me. I could almost hear the sound of my dreams of happiness crumbling in front of me. My name is Laura, and I'm turning 32 this year. I work for an apparel company I've admired since I was young, and I'm the manager of one of its stores. Every day, I work hard to recommend clothes that fit my customers. While working in the store, I often encounter customers who don't like being approached. Even so, I make an effort to talk to them in a way that increases sales. And now, the store I'm in charge of boasts the highest sales in the country.
You've got it all, Laura. You're good at your job, and you've been with your boyfriend for 10 years. Your future is set.
On the way back from a manager training at headquarters, a coworker told me this, sounding genuinely envious. Just as she said, I've been with my boyfriend for 10 years. His name is Robert, and he works for a major insurance company. We met when we were freshmen in college and started dating in our senior year. I always thought it was a one-sided crush, so it was a surprise when Robert confessed to me first. I still remember how happy I was, to the point of tears. Since then, we've spent 10 years together as a couple. However, 3 summers ago, Robert was transferred by his company to the Midwest. I felt lonely, but since it was a promotion, I happily sent him off. Unlike me, Robert seemed excited about the promotion and eagerly left for the Midwest. Looking back, I wonder if I should have been more honest about my feelings and tried harder to keep him from going. But it's too late for regrets now. After Robert left, as expected, I felt incredibly lonely. At 29, a good age, many of my college friends and coworkers were getting married one after another. Some of my friends had even started having kids and were busy raising them. I felt like I was being left behind, and it made me anxious. Even though I really wanted to talk to Robert every night, I held back and called him about once every 3 days. Maybe sensing how I felt, Robert came back to New York for my 30th birthday and threw a big celebration. He took me to the most expensive hotel in the city and gave me a necklace from my favorite jewelry brand. I was thrilled.
Laura, I'm sorry for making you wait all the time, but I'm certain you're the one I'm going to marry. Right now, my career is at its peak, and I'm having the best time. So I might make you wait a bit longer, but I promise we'll spend the rest of our lives together.
With his trademark dimples showing, Robert gave me a bright smile, like the hero of a comic book. Thank you. Yes, I'll wait. I can't imagine being with anyone but you, Robert. So I'll wait as long as it takes. Keep doing great at work. I always wanted to be the cute and understanding girlfriend in front of Robert. That's why I pushed aside my desire to get married soon and decided to respect his wishes. Robert seemed content with my response and drank several beers. With our faces flushed, we looked at each other, confirming our feelings for one another. After Robert asked me to wait for him, I stayed in New York, always thinking about him. I was invited out to dinner by male coworkers and peers, and some even confessed their feelings to me. There were men who pushed, saying they didn't need marriage but just wanted to date. But I firmly rejected every man who approached me. I had Robert, a boyfriend with whom I had a future promised, and I couldn't imagine being involved with another man, even just for fun. Besides, I had been in love with Robert for so many years. There was no way my feelings would shift to someone else now. I waited for him like a loyal dog waiting for its master. As the wave of weddings among my friends continued, I was invited to more and more ceremonies by close friends and coworkers. Each time, I imagined myself in a wedding dress standing next to Robert, and my desire to marry him grew stronger. It was nearly 3 years since Robert and I had started our long-distance relationship. Lately, Robert had been so busy that most of my calls went straight to voicemail. When we first started long distance, I called him every 3 days, but now it had decreased to once a week, then once a month. Even when I sent him messages, they were often left unread. There was a time when he'd reply within 30 minutes, but now it wasn't uncommon for him to take 3 days to get back to me. I tried not to think too much of it, figuring he was just busy, but when he didn't even contact me on our anniversary, it started to feel strange. I didn't want to accuse him of anything regarding our communication frequency, but today was our 10th anniversary. I felt too lonely to let the day pass without anything, so just before midnight, I called him. "Hey, Robert." I thought I heard Robert pick up, so I called out to him, but I heard no voice on the other end. "Is the signal bad?" As I called out to him again, I heard what sounded like a woman's voice in the distance. It wasn't very clear. Realizing it wasn't part of a conversation, I listened closely. Then I heard a woman's suggestive voice. Shocked, I quickly hung up the phone. What was that? Was it just my imagination? I desperately tried to convince myself. Maybe Robert was just watching a movie or something at home and got so absorbed that he forgot to call me. When he picked up the phone, it was probably just an accident. His hand must have hit it or something. That has to be it. I kept telling myself this. The power of self-suggestion is amazing, and I truly convinced myself that the voice I heard on the phone was just a misunderstanding. The next day, Robert called me, which was rare.
Sorry about yesterday. I had to work late into the night, so I couldn't reach out. Yesterday was our 10-year anniversary, right? I'm sorry I was late, but thank you for the past 10 years. Laura, you're the best woman for me.
I could almost picture Robert looking apologetic on the other end of the line. But since he quickly apologized and reassured me, I thought once again how wonderful he was. No, it's okay. You were busy. I'm sorry for calling so many times. I'm really happy to be your girlfriend, Robert. Thank you so much. The saying, "love is blind," couldn't be more true. I was so thrilled that Robert called me that I completely forgot about the strange voice from the night before.
Thanks again. By the way, last night, did you call me? I must have answered the call in my sleep when my arm hit the phone. But did you hear anything?
What? I was surprised when Robert brought up the call from last night. The woman's voice flashed in my mind, but by then I had convinced myself it was all in my head. No, nothing in particular.
Okay, good. Laura, I'm really sorry for always making you wait. I love you.
With that, Robert hung up the phone. Robert, you're really working hard, aren't you? I'm not the only one feeling lonely in this long-distance relationship. Robert must also really want to call and meet up more often. But right now, his career is at a crucial point. I don't want to be a burden. I dreamt like a girl, hoping that Robert's career would go well, and we could get married in the best way possible.
I got a day off on Laura's birthday. I'll be back in New York, so let's go out to eat.
That happy news from Robert came 1 week before my 32nd birthday. Really? I'm so excited. I can't wait. Robert, who had been so busy, was making time just to come see me. With how little we had communicated recently, My excitement was through the roof. And on top of that, Robert had recently been promoted to sales manager. Now that he was officially promoted, I couldn't stop my heart from racing at the thought that he might propose. That Wednesday, exactly 1 week later, happened to be my day off, so I got dressed up early in the morning and waited for Robert. When I greeted him after his flight, I couldn't help but smile at the sight of my long-distance boyfriend. That day, we went on a date like we used to before the long distance, watching a movie, visiting a newly opened shopping mall. But something was different about Robert. Even when I got excited and bubbly, his attitude was indifferent. What's wrong? Are you feeling okay?
No, it's just been so long that my body's having a hard time catching up.
I see. That's a little strange. When I laughed, Robert finally cracked a smile. After that, we continued our date normally, and by the time it got dark, we decided it was time for dinner.
Actually, I made a reservation at a nearby hotel.
Really?
Yeah, let's head there.
Okay. Robert took me to none other than a famous luxury hotel's restaurant that everyone knew. I felt a bit nervous as I walked in. Did I dress too casually for this place? I was a little worried, but the waitress showed us to our table without a hint of disapproval. There was even a reservation card with Robert's name on it at the table, and I glanced at him, thinking how unusually well prepared he was.
This place is nice, right? I saw it featured on TV recently and thought I'd make a reservation.
Yes, it's lovely. I'm starving. Robert laughed at my words and immediately ordered our first drinks. The food they brought out was elegant and delicious, and I couldn't help but smile with delight. With such a wonderful dinner, he's definitely going to propose, right? My hopes kept growing. So when we were nearly done with the meal, and the main course was being served, I couldn't believe the words that came out of Robert's mouth.
Laura, there's something I've been meaning to tell you for a while.
What is it? Robert, now on his fourth drink, was completely drunk. He glanced around to make sure no one was nearby and took a deep breath.
I want a wife in her teens. I'm going to start looking for one soon, so let's break up.
I almost dropped my wine glass at his sudden words. What are you talking about? I never expected the man who brought me to this fancy restaurant after so long to be breaking up with me, especially in such a cheerful tone. In fact, I had been expecting a proposal. For me, this was a complete shock, totally unexpected.
Well, you're in your 30s, right? If I'm going to get married, I think I want someone younger. Besides, long distance isn't really my thing.
Robert said casually, his face flushed with alcohol. Are you serious? Is this some kind of prank? I couldn't get the words out of my throat. But you told me to wait for you, that we would definitely get married. I teared up as I recalled the words Robert had once said to me. I remembered all the days I waited for him, trusting in that promise. It hadn't been easy. There were times I wanted to end our long-distance relationship right then and there. But I held on because I wanted to marry Robert, and that's what kept me going. This can't be happening. It has to be a lie. I could almost hear the sound of my dreams of happiness crumbling in front of me.
Sorry, but I've already made up my mind. I've kept Emily waiting for long enough. So today, I'm finally being honest with you, and I feel a lot better.
Robert, completely unconcerned with how devastated I was, spoke with a bright, satisfied tone, as if he had just achieved his goal. Emily? That must be the woman he's been cheating with. So the voice I heard on the phone the other day, that was Emily. The realization filled me with anger. You told me to wait, and now you're just throwing me away? Looking back, I'd feel ashamed for clinging to a man like him. But at that moment, I was in too much shock to process what was happening. I was desperately trying to think of a way to stop him from leaving.
People's feelings change, you know. I mean, if you get married in your 30s, it's harder to have a lot of kids, right? But Emily is only 19, so her future looks really bright. And besides, teenage skin is so smooth, and her reactions are so cute and genuine. I'm heading back now to get ready for my wedding with Emily. I'll take care of this bill. Thanks for everything, Laura. Take care.
Before I could even process what was happening, Robert hurriedly left the restaurant. I was left sitting there, unable to catch up mentally or emotionally with the sudden turn of events, and I just stared blankly at the table for a while. "Are you all right?" The waitress's voice snapped me back to reality. "Oh yes, I'm sorry for causing a scene." "No worries at all." As I walked out of the restaurant unsteadily, I wondered why I was the one apologizing. I was in too much shock to think about anything. That day, the alcohol hit me hard, and I stumbled onto the train, heading home. Once I was back in my apartment, my tears finally started flowing, and they wouldn't stop. I can't forgive him for this. But Robert has gone back to the Midwest, and I probably won't have to deal with him again. Besides, it's pointless to waste any more time on someone who betrayed me. Even as I thought that, my heart was still clinging to Robert. That jerk. No matter what I told myself, I was deeply hurt. I knew I wouldn't be able to fall in love again for a while. I was already 32. Just like Robert said, younger women are more sought after in the dating scene. Nobody is ever going to need me now. I was sinking deeper into a dark place. For now, I just need to sleep. I'll deal with tomorrow when it comes. Telling myself that was the only way I could keep my sanity. After that day, I threw myself into work, focusing on nothing else. A coworker I was close to noticed my sadness and invited me to karaoke. Singing my heart out did help me feel a bit better, and I was really grateful for that. When I worked at the store and helped couples or married customers, I'd still feel a little down sometimes. But I told myself that if I kept looking down, happiness would slip away, so I tried my hardest to stay positive. At first, it was forced, but eventually, my mood genuinely started to improve, and I was able to throw myself into my work again. In the midst of all this, I noticed a male customer who frequented my store. "You come by often, don't you? I'm glad you like our clothes." When I spoke to him, the male customer gave a shy smile before responding pleasantly.
"Yeah, I can't help but drop by when I'm in the area."
I was happy he complimented the clothes I loved so much. But then the customer looked down, his face turning red.
"Actually, what I'm really interested in is you."
"What?" I couldn't help but ask again. I thought I must have misheard. But the man said with a sharp look on his face.
"Can I come by to see you again?"
I felt my heart begin to race. "Yes, please, come by anytime." It would be a lie to say I wasn't happy. No, to be honest, I was really happy. But since I was the store manager and he was a customer, I wasn't sure if expressing my feelings so openly was okay, so I kept my answer polite.
"I'll be back then."
The customer, after hearing my response, left with a happy expression on his face. I found myself feeling excited, wondering when this male customer, whose name I didn't even know, would come by again. 3 years have passed since then. Now, I've quit the apparel company I worked for and opened my own store. The store is on the first floor, and the second and third floors are my home. Thanks to introducing the process of opening my store on a video platform before the launch, many customers have visited. Since most of my customers are younger, I promoted the store on social media, which helped turn it into a popular spot, even making waves in the media. a TV station interviewed me the other day. It's hard to believe everything that's happening to me, but with each new feature on TV or social media, I've come to realize just how successful my store has become. I was enjoying my busy, fulfilling days when one Sunday night, a call came into my shop. I was in the middle of calculating the week's sales. So since it was past closing time and I was busy, I thought about ignoring the call. The phone stopped ringing, but after a while, it started again. This repeated about 5 times. And once I'd finished the sales calculations, I finally picked up the receiver. "Hello, this is Boutique Laura." As I said the name of my store, which I'd named after myself, there was a brief silence on the other end. A wrong number or a prank call, maybe? "Hello." When I asked again, a familiar voice responded.
Hey, it's been a while.
It was none other than Robert. Why is he calling my store? I never told him I opened it, and I don't even want to deal with him anymore. Feeling my whole body reject the idea of Robert, I deliberately said, "Who are you again?"
What?
The confused voice from the other end sounded a bit off.
It's me, Robert. We were together for 10 years. Don't act like you've forgotten.
Robert spoke like one of those scam callers, and I sighed in disbelief. "So, what do you want?" I had no desire to talk to him. Wanting to end the call as soon as possible, I bluntly asked him what he needed.
Oh, right. Laura, sorry to keep you waiting. It looks like I can finally marry you. You've been waiting all this time, right? You always said you wanted to marry me. Well, I've broken up with Emily, so I'm ready to marry you now.
His smug tone, paired with an unsettling chuckle, made his words sound dark and detached from reality. The phrase itself, and his voice, sent a chill down my spine, making my whole body tense up. Marry Robert? What on earth is he talking about now? And the fact that he's saying, "I'm ready to marry you," like he's doing me a favor. How dare he? At this point, pushing for marriage is absurd. Are you serious? What are you talking about? Why on earth would I marry you? I wouldn't marry a guy like you if you were the last man on earth. I remembered how devastated I felt when Robert broke up with me. The pain so intense it nearly shattered my heart. I realized this was my only chance to get revenge for that moment, so I hit Robert with a harsh, blunt response.
What did you say?
Robert's voice suddenly turned angry after hearing my response.
Do you even know what you're saying? I'm offering to marry you now, even though you're past your mid-30s. You don't have any reason to refuse.
Robert's voice, shouting like a child throwing a tantrum, echoed painfully in my ears, loud and grating. Do you realize what you're saying? Why would I marry the guy who dumped me for such a terrible reason? I want nothing to do with someone like you. I shut him down, and for a moment, there was silence on the other end of the line. At that exact moment, someone came down from our apartment on the second floor into the shop. He must have overheard my voice.
What's going on?
It was my husband, John, looking at me with concern. I met John 3 years ago when I was managing a store. Yes, he was the customer who said, "I'm interested in you." True to his word, John kept visiting the store frequently. When he confessed his feelings for me, I wasn't sure what to do. John's a customer. Is it really okay for me, as the manager, to have personal feelings for him? I was so conflicted that I asked my coworkers for advice, and with a casual tone, they encouraged me.
If you're really interested, why not go for it?
This coworker knew how heartbroken I was after Robert dumped me, so I'm sure they were trying to cheer me up. And so, I started seeing John outside of work, and we eventually began dating. A year ago, we got married. Now, John works with me in the shop, and we run it together. He's truly a kind and dependable husband. John, actually. I covered the phone and told John that Robert had been calling relentlessly. John's eyes widened in surprise. Then he asked me to hand him the phone. What is he planning to say? I handed the phone to John, and he put it on speaker to start talking.
Hello. I've taken over the call. My name is John. Is this Robert? It's been a while.
John greeted in a respectful tone.
What? A while? Who the hell are you?
Robert sounded confused, clearly thrown off by John's sudden appearance. I also didn't understand why John was saying, "It's been a while." Sensing both of our confusion, John cleared his throat and continued.
Robert, have you forgotten me? About 2 years ago, you were trying really hard to sell me an insurance policy. It was too expensive, so I turned it down. I looked into the cost because it seemed so high. And when I checked your company's website and reviews, I saw that their policies were supposed to be affordable. I was suspicious, so I contacted them, and it turned out you'd been pushing false prices.
Wait, you're that guy from back then.
It seemed that Robert remembered something, and I could hear the clear sound of panic in his voice. I tilted my head, confused by what John was saying. Then, John carefully explained what had happened between him and Robert.
I told you I thought something was off when Robert tried to sell me that policy, so I contacted his company. Once they found out he was being dishonest, they started looking into his past sales records. Turns out he'd been quoting fraudulent prices to many people, not just me, pocketing the extra money. And he'd specifically targeted housewives and elderly folks who didn't know much about insurance. In short, he was charging customers false insurance fees and pocketing the extra money. So it's no surprise that he got fired.
The story John shared left me completely stunned. Robert, who always seemed so dedicated to his work, was actually scamming people? He lied about insurance costs and stole money from John and others?
Because of you meddling back then, I lost everything. And then Emily left me for another guy and even had his kid. The moment I got fired, she moved on. After all I gave her. And now, Laura's doing great, running her own store. I saw you on TV yesterday. So, I figured if I married Laura, my future would be set. Please, Laura, marry me. I've got no one else. You're the only one who ever truly loved me. I'm sorry about what happened 3 years ago, but I swear I'll make you happy this time.
As Robert's complaints to John quickly shifted into desperate pleas for marriage with me, I couldn't help but feel utterly disgusted. It's his own fault he got fired for engaging in those shady, borderline fraudulent activities. And as for Emily, she has nothing to do with me or John. She was a flaky woman from the start. What angered me the most was that Robert still thought I had feelings for him. I looked over at John, who stood beside me, and gave him a firm nod. John is the only person I need in my life. I never want to deal with this awful man again. Clenching my heated palms into fists, I unleashed my fury into the phone. Are you stupid? My voice was so cold it even surprised me. I could almost picture Robert flinching on the other end of the line.
Stupid? What are you talking about?
As expected, short-tempered Robert quickly lost his cool and snapped back, sounding pitiful. I was ready to teach him a hard lesson in reality. You're stupid for thinking I still have feelings for you. Who do you think you are? I'm married to John now, and I'm happy. Compared to when I was with you, enduring long distance, waiting for you, only to be dumped. It's like my world has flipped upside down. Thanks to John, I've been able to forget about you. And now what? You saw me on TV and figured I must have money. So you decided to call, right? It's obvious you don't care about me. You dumped me so cruelly and only come back when it's convenient for you. Did you really think I'd still like you after all that? You're completely delusional. Losing your job and your girlfriend? You look pathetic. But honestly, it's the life you deserve. Got it? I have no regrets about you whatsoever. So don't contact me again. If you do, I'll report you to the police. Goodbye.
Hey, wait a second.
Ignoring Robert's voice, I hung up the phone. The store, which had echoed with Robert's pitiful shouting just moments ago, fell silent, as if nothing had ever happened. I let go of the tension I'd been holding on to and leaned against John. I'm sorry. I really lost my cool.
No need to apologize. Anyone would be shaken by a call like that. Laura, thank you again for choosing me. I'll make sure you're always happy.
John's kind words seeped into my tired heart like a soothing balm. I'm so glad I married John. Ironically, it was because of my relationship with Robert that I could truly feel this way. I was determined to make John just as happy as he made me. A few days passed, and Robert didn't call the shop again. However, I began to notice a suspicious figure lurking around the store a few times. Dressed in black, wearing sunglasses and a mask, it was clear this person didn't belong. Without hesitation, I reported it to the police. As I suspected, it was Robert, and it seemed he had planned to forcibly take me back.
Hey, wait. I know her. I just want to talk to her.
Yeah, sure. You can explain it at the station.
Damn it.
Robert was arrested on the spot, his excuses falling on deaf ears as the police dragged him away. I later found out from an old college friend of his what happened to Robert afterward. After being thoroughly interrogated by the police, he was slapped with a hefty fine amounting to tens of thousands of dollars. It was an amount he could have managed if he had a steady job, but being unemployed, he had to borrow the money. On top of that, he already had debts from the money he'd spent on his ex-wife, Emily. He needed to find work to pay it all back, but no company was willing to hire someone who'd committed fraud, not even for part-time jobs. With no other options, he took on jobs like delivery work, earning just enough pocket money to scrape by. But the road to repaying his debts was long. Meanwhile, the interest on his loans kept piling up, and he couldn't even afford rent anymore. He's now searching for a live-in job. But even live-in jobs keep rejecting him. So word is that Robert is now homeless, living in a park. Of course, he tried reaching out to his parents, but they wouldn't forgive him after everything he'd done. Robert's parents had originally wanted him to marry me, and it seems that when he left me for Emily, they gave up on him entirely. Everything that's happened to him was brought on by his own actions. Imagining Robert living in a park, enduring the rain, heat, and cold, I felt a bit sorry for him, but I couldn't help thinking it was exactly what he deserved, and it made me laugh. On the other hand, I recently found out that I'm expecting my first child. I had been worried it might be difficult due to my age, so when I received the news, I was overjoyed, and John and I couldn't stop jumping for joy. I won't be able to work at the store for a while, but John assured me that he'd take care of everything. I'm so fortunate to have such a dependable employee, and even more so, a wonderful husband, and right now I feel incredibly happy. I want to continue living a bright and joyful life, making sure I never lose this true happiness.